Are we going to have another RoboDebt? Let's have a look. Hello everyone, I'm Florian Heise and welcome to another episode of Heise Says. I've got my stein of coffee and I thought we would have a look at this article about childcare subsidy debts. Is this turning into another RoboDebt? If you're not familiar with RoboDebt, it is the instance where through Centrelink coordinating robotically or programmatically with the ATO, a lot of people have been hit up with debts that they have to pay. And frankly, this can go back further than the requirement or the time frame that you are required to maintain your receipts. So it seems really unfair in some regards, particularly if companies change, paperwork gets dodged, and you make honest mistakes. So, while everyone's going, oh, we're getting the money from the bludgers or the people on the dole, in some regards, there is an element of deadweight loss you have to accept in an economy when you intervene like this. And, I think it's going to hurt a lot of people who are probably in trouble. But here we have another one. Childcare subsidy debt frustrates parents who say data was wiped from Centrelink accounts. Okay, the data was wiped from Centrelink accounts. Now, I had a similar instance where at QUT, where I was studying architecture, you had to have a certain amount of hours in the workplace while you studied and worked. We had a flexible full-time course. So we had 1 day of university and 4 days in office. And we could get exemption from one subject if we achieved so many thousands of hours of experience in the workplace, which was fantastic. And we were meant to log all the data into the university's computer system and track it there. And then that data would be produced in a format that would be compatible with our requirements to register as an architect. So to become an architect, it's actually a protected title under an act. You have to do an interview, put a logbook in of so many thousands of hours and all different criteria. And the university system was meant to align with that. Now, I was working from first year all the way through my course. And, when you first start, you start logging everything. And I got pretty slack with it. So I ended up not really using the university system too much because I didn't trust it. I got all the data out of it, and I just manually did it in Excel. This is before the uni gave us anything. We actually developed our own manual template forms and shared them around with each other. But the university was meant to keep that data forever, or for at least an extended period of time beyond the end of the course, because they kept changing the course. You know what happened? They deleted it. They got rid of the data, and all the students needed access to that data to register as architects. So it shows you having trust in any of these organizations, even at a small, the bureaucracy of a university. I would not be surprised at all from my own cynical experiences if the same thing was happening at the bureaucracy of Centrelink. So let's have a look. When Lucy Ford got a letter from Centrelink telling her she'd been overpaid for her childcare subsidies, she couldn't believe it. She went back to check her working and childcare hours logged with Centrelink, searching for the overpayment, but the information she'd entered through the year had disappeared. I was a little bit shocked at the debt because we had overestimated our income by $12,000 and I'd updated our activity hours, she said. So I thought I should check what was on my record and found that all my activity hours had been deleted. There was just none on there for the last financial year. Under the scheme, parents must report to Centrelink every time their income or work hours changes. I mean, who doesn't think we're in some socialist, centrally planned economy when you have to report your hours of work to the government for such little things? I mean, this is just how it is, guys. And this is probably why we have such a compliant society here in Australia. Why if so many people you talk to about the cash ban or loss of liberty or all of these things, they just acquiesce and accept what the government has told us. This is why when we see ministers or briefing notes, submissions being prepared for the minister, they're more interested in what their corporate buddies at the casino think than the opinion of constituents. So, yes, I mean, the question of whether government should even be subsidizing this industry and if it's a benefit or a hindrance is another topic to discuss. I would lean more towards government involvement may really be worse than we realize, but it is a very sensitive topic, and there's a lot of regulation in childcare, just in design and the ratios, and it's just crazy. It really is, for taking care of kids. Anyway, those figures are then balanced at the end of the financial year against a tax return to determine if the family has received the correct subsidy payment. The Fords are one of more than 90,000 families who have been stung with a debt after their accounts were balanced from the first financial year of the childcare subsidy. So 90,000 people are now stung with this debt. They're stung with this debt. And the problem is, you know, even if you're getting this subsidy, you just live your life and you have your budget and you think it's all going to be fine. You're not going to start squirreling away money in case the government makes an issue. I mean, what normal person would do that? It's probably a sensible thing to do that, considering what's been happening, but I can't imagine anyone would do that. The Education Department refused to say how many people had reported that their data had been wiped. Well, there you go. That's the issue. Do you need to keep the data separate? However, the ABC understands the department has been made aware of the glitch multiple times. It was a system glitch. I'm appealing the debt, but it's background stress knowing that I'm going to have to call and stay on the phone for hours, and that it's not going to be a straightforward process sorting it out, Ms. Ford said. If we hadn't overestimated our income, we would have owed thousands of dollars, and that's a huge blow for any family. Shadow Minister for Early Education Amanda Rishworth said she had been contacted by parents with concerns on how the debts have been calculated. And on ringing up Centrelink, they found that it was a system glitch that wiped their data. Yes. In fact, they didn't even owe any debt, she said. I'm worried for all those families who haven't had the time and energy to chase it and have received this letter and thought, well, Centrelink must be right, and they've paid that debt. Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine that. It'd be a lot of people that just wouldn't bother. Call centres inundated with requests for help. The ABC's Australia Talks national survey found the cost is the biggest problem facing parents when it comes to sourcing childcare. And why is childcare so expensive, guys? Because it is a highly regulated industry. It is a highly regulated industry. Even to have children at home and to charge a neighbour for it, that's regulated. That's regulated, guys. And then what happens is the government monitors your employment. You have to be a good little citizen, submit all that information to them to get some money back. And most of it is to just, they want to encourage more people working. They want to get more women working. They want to have the state taking care of your children. And, you know, indoctrinating them into nice, good little worker bees too. Is it worth it? That's the challenge that people need to ask. Is it worth giving up time with your child, putting them in childcare when you could do it all yourself? You know, in the past, people raised the kids themselves for that little bit of extra money. And that's, I think more and more people are starting to wake up to it. So 75% of parents with young children rated cost as a problem for them personally. A spokesperson for the Department of Education said most families had received a top-up payment after the balancing process was completed. This is the first balancing period for the new childcare subsidy payment, which replaces two separate payments that operated differently and had different requirements, they said. Because of this, the Department of Human Services, which is responsible for the reconciliation process, has been approaching the balancing process with care to manage it with as little impact as possible on families. The latest balancing data, as at the 4th of October, shows that more than 574,000 families have had their balancing completed. Of the outcomes delivered to families, 87% resulted in top-up payments. But the department wouldn't answer questions on system problems. John Cherry from Australia's largest childcare provider, Good Start Early Learning, said their call centres have been inundated with requests for help for parents. Overall, our families are better off with the changes to the childcare subsidy, but the subsidy, the way it's been designed, particularly the Centrelink processes, have not met the objectives of being simpler than the system it replaced, he said. Well, Is that ever possible? Can the government ever make a system simpler? And the complexity, the multiplying payment points in terms of getting approval, that drives a lot of families up the wall. The federal government has launched a 3-year review of the childcare subsidy policy. So guys, this does look like it is another version of RoboDebt. It's the problem with these different departments not talking to each other. This is the thing. You know, when people think this is well-orchestrated government plan, I just keep seeing so much incompetence. Just so much incompetence everywhere. Maybe it's systematic incompetence. Maybe it's intentional incompetence to throw us off what's really happening. What do you think, guys? Have you been stung with this? Would you be planning for your subsidy being returned? I mean, it all seems... yeah, it seems unfair to those families. I feel... for them, because that can be certainly an element of stress that you shouldn't have to put up with. You really shouldn't have to put up with. It needs to be simpler. It needs to be much simpler. Anyway, guys, like, share, and subscribe. Let me know your comments down below. If you like my content and would like to help me produce more, I do have a Patreon and Subscribe style where you can donate a small amount. I also have affiliate links for Amazon and other places where I receive a small commission for referring you. Thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. I'll say it again. Enjoy a stein of coffee, and I'll talk to you all later.